So moving on from the original version of this policy back in 1997, Gummer's Law, Country House Clause, we move on to 2004, and at that point the Labour government lobbied to actually get the clause removed. They thought it was an elitist piece of policy, the way it was worded, and the way it had been used at that time. It was just large landowners building large country houses, and so it was seen to not necessarily fit with a Labour agenda. But fortunately, the architectural community, the good and the great of architecture, didn't like the idea of scrapping it at that point, so they lobbied to keep it, and thank goodness they did. So in 2004, the wording got changed quite significantly when it got introduced at that point as the Planning Policy Statement 7 and paragraphs 10 and 11. And it was under that policy in 2007 that we got planning consent for our house, which strictly speaking was replacing a bungalow, but we had a little bungalow there, but policy didn't allow you to replace a tiny little bungalow with a house that was twice the footprint, twice the height. You're allowed to do a replacement dwelling, but not something that's so substantially bigger. So because we went outside the remit of that replacement dwelling policy, we needed to there needs to be another policy to catch what we wanted to do. So at the time it was PPS 7 paragraph 11. So anyway, I digress. So the wording of PPS 7 paragraph 11 set some interesting different avenues for this policy to explore. I'm just going to read some of the parts of that original policy out. I don't want to get it wrong. I'd rather read it out correctly. But paragraph 11 started off by saying, very occasionally the exceptional quality and innovative nature, that's an and by the way, innovative nature of the design of a proposed isolated new house may provide the special justification for granting planning permission. Such a design should be truly outstanding and groundbreaking. For example, in its use of materials, methods of construction, or its contribution to protecting and enhancing the environment. So, helping to raise standards of design more generally in rural areas. The value of such a building will be found in its reflection of the highest standards in contemporary architecture, the significant enhancement of its immediate setting, and its sensitivity to the defining characteristics of the local area. So again, referencing back to the original version, there are some of the overlaps of some of the tests of the policy in there, but some interesting different new clauses, new words in there. So the term contemporary architecture was introduced. The term groundbreaking was in there. The term very occasionally, right at the beginning, was introduced. And those become, later on, in years down the line, became quite interesting. It's interesting to see how it was applied and why the policy kind of evolved further after that. But yeah, it was around about that time that you started to see more smaller houses, more contemporary dwellings trying to use this policy. But still, I mean, we got planning consent in 2007 for our house, and there weren't many of them around then. There weren't many houses that had attempted to use the policy. It was still very, very unknown. And of course, planning officers and planning authorities it was an unusual piece of policy. It didn't fit with the local plans, so they didn't quite know how to deal with it. But I'll go on next video to talk about the next evolution, and we can talk about some of the reasons why the wording changed. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.